very warm welcome to Gaming News Weekly, your weekly gaming news show every Friday at 5 p.m. As always, with your hosts on this channel, me, I'm Rich, and my good friend of many a year, Tabs. Say hello, mate.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us. As always, we'll have three, although this week we've got four stories to book the trend that we're going to delve into. In looking, with some detail. Then we've got at the end we've got everything else where we talk a little bit about some stories that didn't make the headlines for us this week. But before we do all that, we'll start as we do every single week with what we've been playing this week. So, Tabs, what have you been playing this week?
I've been playing a little bit of a game called The Outer Wilds with my missus.
Oh, okay.
So we downloaded it on Steam. I've heard it's like an indie title made by, is it Annapurna? I think that's how you pronounce it. But basically, it's much lauded. Kind of a first person, so you're out, exploration space game, but with puzzles. And yeah, people say some wonderful things about it. In my mind is Tom from IGN. I think he loves it. So anyway, yeah, we've started that, although we're hitting the rocks already because the missus is struggling with motion sickness. I have to say it's especially bad, mate, even compared with first-person games generally. Because it's a space game, so you're on like almost an axis that has no limitation. It's not, a lot of it is not horizontal. You're looking all over the shop. And added to that, the puzzles so far seem pretty obscure. It reminded me of playing, do you remember Myst? Back in the day.
Oh yes, yeah.
They had some. Maybe I was too young, but I just remember thinking I don't even know where to start with these puzzles. So, suffice to say, it's a bit of a bumpy entry at this point. But we're going to try and stick it out, and I want to hopefully get to that point that everybody talks about in these great glowing reviews. But mate, what about you? What have you been playing?
Intrigued by that one. I do love a puzzling game, so that would, but obviously the motion sickness, if it's bad for somebody who doesn't really suffer from motion sickness, it'd be vomit everywhere for me.
Guaranteed.
But yeah, to be honest, mate, I've been away for a few days and then I've come back and it's just been flat out, so I haven't actually played any games at all. I'm hoping after we film this, I can jump on Death Stranding for a bit. I think the only thing I've played with any earnest is I played Scrabble on the iPad with the missus. That's about it. That's as far as I went. So very tame this week, unfortunately. But hopefully, I can pick the slack up. We can get into Death Stranding a bit more. We can see what's going on.
Hardcore gamers, mate, only play Scrabble. That's the new trend I heard.
Well, I don't know about that.
You're fine.
Right, let's get into the news proper. Right, so we're going to start this week with those GTA Trilogy reviews finally pulled up. So anyone that watched last week will know that we were planning to do like a review roundup of GTA Trilogy, but no reviews had dropped, curiously. And that story seems to have grown arms and legs. So let's get into this. So currently sits at a Metacritic of 58. And I'm just going to repeat that. That's 58. Unexpected. IGN gave it a 50 and they had this to say: there's no question that the three games in this GTA trilogy are all-time classics, but they've unfortunately been remastered with a ham hand instead of love fist. Wow.
I love that. That was a nice pity. From the guy who wrote the Death Stranding review, by the way, Rich. So
they wheeled out the big guns.
We're not bitter. I'll take up next. Metro gave it a 50. They said, lazy, amateurish and half-finished are not how you usually expect to describe a Rockstar game. But this easily avoided mess shows three classic games in the least flattering way possible.
Wow. Guardian gave it a 40, or what is in essence a 4 out of 10. These versions of Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City and San Andreas are in no way definitive. Seeing them like this is more of a disappointment. It is infuriating. Wow, so I mean, you can just see by those reviews there that this has got pretty much unilateral condemnation of how poor this is. We're talking glitches. One of our friends has got it and is playing it and says it's playable to a point, but he has experienced a lot of glitches. Tabs was just telling me before we came on air that he said the Switch suffers with some frame rate issues that potentially come down to as low as 20, which, I mean, that is shocking. I mean, back in the day, if you were playing a PC game and had frame rates of like 20, it would be unplayable. So yeah, just a massive, like, really unexpected misstep. Like, I didn't expect this from Rockstar. Have they rushed this out? I mean, to the point where this is on par with Cyberpunk mess up, I would say. I don't know, you'll have to chime in a second, Tabs, what you think on that. But yeah, I mean, to the point where Tabs was really game to buy this, and this is so flawed currently with its build, Tabs is not buying it as we stand. Tabs.
Yeah, well, I said to you, didn't I, mate? I read this Forbes article that was trying to argue this is even worse than Cyberpunk, because initially when we discussed it, we were like, well, it's not quite as bad because they didn't try and, hype it up over many years and under-deliver as badly as CD Projekt Red did. But I think the Forbes article was kind of saying the difficulty on entry of this, it's a remaster essentially, and they were using the code from the old games. So immediately the bar is quite low, isn't it, in terms of what they need to achieve? And they've still managed to F this up. So yeah, I think we could talk about this for hours, and there's enough errors and problems with all of these games to talk about alone for hours. So we'll keep it short. But yeah, it's such a surprise to see Rockstar make a mess up like this, given their reputation for actually slaving over their games. Like Red Dead Redemption 2, I don't know if there's another game that has such a slavish attention to detail in its design, and yet they've let this out the door. Now I know it's these Grove Street Games who sort of have outsourced the project to, but ultimately it reflects on them that surely ultimately they made the decision on saying we're happy to publish this, to sell it, to almost represent our company and our seal of quality. And not just that, it is their franchise which they are best known for, which was the magic carpet to their success. And they've just absolutely dropped the ball here, no other way about it. So obviously we'd mentioned, hadn't we, about Dan Houser leaving and how, I don't know, we've talked about it in the past, mate, but has that kind of corporate pandemic, if you like, hit Rockstar now, where you've got all these business bods making terrible decisions detached from, what really matters in games development? And I really hope not. It's sent people, I think people are now worried about this potential Red Dead remake, which is much rumoured.
I think the one thing that stands out for me is Rockstar nowadays just don't get bad press. Like this, it's like everything they touch turns to gold. They released Red Dead Redemption 2, brilliant. GTA 5 and its online bit just is like a cash cow. Just everything they release for it just goes bigger and bigger and bigger. And you have to look back quite a way to find some negative like press for them. Maybe to the scandal they had with was it San Andreas that had the coffee time thing? Was it where there was stuff in there that shouldn't have been in there or whatever? But to look for bad press for Rockstar nowadays is quite difficult. So this is going to hurt big time for them, and it will be very interesting to see their reaction to this. Go on, Tabs.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, I'm sure you've seen it, but it's puts that into contrast because is it CEO of Take-Two, Strauss Zelnick? I'm sure there've been some articles shared where previously he's talked about the catastrophe of Cyberpunk and how that's happened. He's talked about how they always do their remasters really well and take the time and focus on quality. And obviously that just looks terrible now because they've just rushed this one out the door. I can't believe that they've obviously not had a good system for like triage and filtering and quality assurance, because surely any developer in their right mind would have played this for an hour and gone, there's no way we can let this one. We're going to have to cancel the whole project, take it back to ground, to square one. So anyway, mate, like I say, we could talk for hours on it. It's so frustrating. It's so annoying. As big fans of the series and the games, really wanted to sit down and play some on my Switch and just get that nostalgia going on. But I'm not going to do it because I think it's just going to leave a bad taste in my mouth. I'm going to wait and hope they've got a roadmap of patches to bring it somewhere close to being playable.
And also, ultimately, what I think you would find is if you'd bought it, and obviously we've spoken a number of times, you would have bought it so you could play it on the go, you can pick it up and play it whenever, if you're busy, in between stuff you're doing, whatever. Ultimately, you would get so frustrated by it, you just would stop playing it. And then ultimately, that investment you've had in that game, you aren't going to get it back from the enjoyment of playing it. So I think you're wise to wait. So yeah, very disappointing, but I think that's enough on that one. Should we move on?
Let's do, mate, let's do. So, Activision Blizzard blows cold on Kotick. So this comes courtesy of the BBC, and I'm sure everybody who's mildly interested in video games has seen the headlines on this. It's hard to miss. But this is what BBC said. Workers at game development titan Activision Blizzard have staged a walkout after reports chief executive Bobby Kotick had long been aware of harassment allegations. The Wall Street Journal published an extensive investigation to the company, alleging Mr. Kotick had intervened in at least one case. Mr. Kotick called the report inaccurate and misleading. The newspaper's investigation said Mr. Kotick had been aware of sexual misconduct claims for years, including at least one rape allegation as far back as 2018, but failed to report the matter to the board of directors. It's also alleged when a senior figure at one of the publisher's studios was accused of sexual harassment and an internal investigation launched, Mr. Kotick intervened to keep him. So Mr. Kotick is also accused of leaving a voicemail in 2006 threatening to kill a female member of staff.
What?
It's crazy, isn't it? The Wall Street Journal also covered a previously reported incident from 2007 where he was accused of firing a flight attendant on his private jet after she complained of sexual harassment by the pilot. Both cases were settled out of court. After the report, however, was published, the ABK Workers Alliance, an employees group for Activision's umbrella of companies, tweeted it was staging a walkout later that day and calling for Mr. Kotick to step down. I'm sure it was attended to by like 150 employees or something like that. The board of directors issued a statement saying, and this is the terrible bit, well, the more terrible bit. So all that being said, all that kind of smoke, I suppose, the board remains confident that Bobby Kotick appropriately addressed workplace issues brought to his attention. The goals we have set for ourselves are both critical and ambitious. The board remains confident in Bobby Kotick's leadership, commitment, and ability to achieve these goals. So they're basically like doubling down and just damage controlling and just pushing on regardless, despite the fact we've got all these hugely damning, threatening to kill people. Rape, an incident of rape, and he's obviously helping to keep, potentially friends in powerful positions despite them erring hugely in terms of their, moral compass. So I think even, mate, I saw Jim Ryan of PlayStation had come out and he's actually kind of condemned it almost publicly as well, saying he doesn't think they've gone enough to address these issues.
I think that just to interrupt for a sec, the thing for me is on this, right? If those allegations came out for anybody else in any other organisation, the first thing they would do is they would be suspended. While they investigate the claims. Investigate
it, yes, exactly.
That's what would happen.
Investigate.
That's what would happen throughout any other industry I could think of. That's what would happen. You wouldn't have the board just saying, "Oh no, we think it's all," because basically what they're saying, it's all either made up or being completely blown out of all proportion. Because there's no way you could get the information on these things. Bearing in mind these have happened over years, past tense, there would need to be some investigation to pull the information together so you could sit down and look at it and go, actually, is he okay to be the leader still? Did he misstep? Do we need to think again? They've just gone, oh no, we don't need to do any of that. That would be fairly commonplace throughout. All other companies, all other industries will just back the horse. Yeah.
That's the thing though, mate. The scandal end to end to date, that's the context. And then this comes out in big publications. I don't know what the evidence is they've been presented with, if at all. But regardless of that, they can't just go, no, we're confident. They need to at least say, we're confident because we have this evidence to the contrary and present it and be transparent. So the rest of the public can actually say, okay, I can understand the reason behind it. They can't just say. And like you say, at the very least, they have to say, listen, okay, like you say, suspend him pending a independent and thorough investigation into these rumours. We take it seriously. They've recently announced like a zero tolerance policy on like, I think, sexual harassment and workplace culture issues. Yet they're not applying it to the CEO. And the only reason, let's be honest, reading between the lines, is because he makes them and has perhaps made them a lot of money. And they just want to keep him in that position to carry on, despite, almost, you'd say, crimes against humanity that are going on at that company. Almost from what these rumours suggest, sponsored by the CEO.
Absolutely.
He is the CEO, isn't he? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just crackers. I can't get my head around it whatsoever. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I don't know.
I think the internet is roaring on, as is all social media. And obviously with big influential figures like Jim Ryan coming out, I think the industry is almost at this point putting the pressure on to say, listen, he's got to go. You can't just kind of bulldoze through this. He's got to go because it looks bad on everybody, and we've got to take collective responsibility. And I just hope that continues to be the case until he does basically get pushed out. And almost as well now, I feel like these board of directors, they should have some fingers pointed at them, shouldn't they? But anyway, mate, another rabbit hole to go down and get lost in if we don't put the soapbox down.
We could talk all night about that and the injustice that is in that story. But let's move on to the third story, usually the final, but we've shoehorned 4 in this week. So first up, we have got...
He's not bitter, BArcadians. He's not bitter at all.
No, I'm saying normally this week's a little unusual. It's fine. We've got Halo multiplayer surprise reveal. And this little piece of information comes from the BBC. So let's get into it. The latest game in the Halo series has been released 3 weeks early to coincide with the franchise's 20th anniversary. On Monday the 15th of November, an Xbox 20th anniversary event, Microsoft revealed the multiplayer part of the game was being released the same day. The single player campaign is still being withheld until December the 8th. The release was widely celebrated by fans keen to play the multiplayer, which was reviewed well in early previews, though there were complaints about the leveling system being slow-paced and potentially frustrating.
I'll take the reins there, buddy, because then PC Gamer, we bolted this on because this addresses what you said at the end there. So while Halo Infinite's multiplayer beta is going down a treat, many players have been vocal in their dislike of the Battle Pass, is like the progression system, I think. Particularly how slow its progress is. We agree, said PC Gamer. Following hints yesterday, 343 Industries would address the complaints. Community manager John Juiciest?
Yeah, go on. Yeah, good work.
Has outlined the studio's strategy to make it better. Later this week, some targeted tunings will roll out. To start, we'll be adding Play One game challenges to help you make sure you're consistently progress through the Battle Pass by playing matches the way you want. Junisek wrote, we'll also be adjusting, fixing bugs with, and removing some weekly challenges based on your feedback. These tunings to challenge difficulty will help you progress through weekly challenges faster and thus directly speed up your progress through the Battle Pass. Take it away, mate. What are your thoughts?
So, firstly, we've already seen from all the previews and that Halo's multiplayer looks really, really fun. It looks like a real hoot. And I think, obviously, we're not Xbox people. We're PC and PlayStation generally. I think we are missing a treat there. Not me personally, because I'm not a first-person shooter fan for obvious reasons. But I do think it looks like a lot of fun. I think it looks like probably one of the better multiplayers we've had for a while. And it's really good to see, actually, that they've released the beta and they have taken on board what's been said and they're tweaking it to sort of make it more enjoyable, make it more targeted in terms of the way you play through it. And I really like that. I really like the progressive thinking behind that they're choosing to tweak it to have a better experience overall, to try and make it better for the players, which is great. What did you make of this, mate?
Yeah, just fantastic to see. We obviously saw, some development hell of Halo Infinite as a whole, and it's lovely to see turn a corner. They dropped this at their anniversary event, pleased loads of people. There was a lot of rumours and excitement building up to the Monday, the 15th, about it. And it's lovely that it's just like they've given that to fans and everybody can get stuck in and start enjoying it. They've responded really quickly to the Battle Pass criticisms as well. That's really good. I mean, obviously not great. They've not landed that first time, but the fact that they've come out straight away and said, we've got all this planned, we're going to make changes, just wonderful again. So it's just lovely for Halo fans and for Xbox owners and enthusiasts that this is a real kind of success story for them, and great to see. Shall I move us on to the last story today?
Absolutely.
And finally this week, we've got the headline, Elder Scrolls 6 exclusivity confirmed, ? And this is what GameSpot had to say about it. Microsoft is not punishing Sony, but Phil Spencer says, in order to be on Xbox, I want us to be able to bring the full complete package of what we have. So after Starfield, Bethesda Game Studios is releasing the Elder Scrolls 6, and it will be an exclusive to Xbox and PC after Microsoft acquired parent company ZeniMax. So basically, this is exactly what Phil said. It's not about punishing any other platform, like I fundamentally believe all of the platforms can continue to grow, he said. But in order to be on Xbox, I want us to be able to bring the full complete package of what we have. And that will be true when I think about Elder Scrolls 6. That will be true when I think about any of our franchises. Todd Howard said in the interview that the next Elder Scrolls game is being designed to have a long-lasting impact, similar to Skyrim, which just celebrated its 10th anniversary and is still going strong. So yeah, we know, I think, Rich, and if you've been watching this BArcadians and the news stories, you know the way I feel about this. I didn't like the way that they just bought up Bethesda and basically sealed potentially exclusivity to all of those franchises that have been beloved by many over the years. And, you know, not everybody can afford to own every console and a PC. Though it just felt a bit like, I was a bit like that when Xbox and Microsoft first entered the games industry. Felt like they kind of bought their way into the business a bit, rather than kind of earn their place as such. Maybe that's, you know, totally dumbfounded and just my own bias. But essentially that's how I felt with this a little bit. It was such a shame to see them put that wall and barrier up. And we've said, haven't we, Rich, as well, that Phil Spencer, he often tries to play the role of that kind of friendly neighborhood, not Spider-Man, but games industry CEO or whatever. Like everybody's friend, has always got positive things to say, and this kind of felt at odds with that a little bit, you know. But I understand why they're doing it. It makes business sense. They need to secure some really kind of powerful intellectual IP that's exclusive to Xbox to really, you know, compete with PlayStation Studios, for example. So I get it. It was just a shame. More on a kind of philosophical basis, I suppose. But mate, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I can't really get on board with the whole. If it's on Xbox and PC, and he's saying he wants it to be exclusive so that they can use the full and complete package, I can't imagine the architecture of the PlayStation 5 is much different to a PC and an Xbox. If it will run on a PC and an Xbox, it'll run perfectly well on a PS5. So I don't feel like that stacks up as an argument for making it exclusive for me. It's exclusive for the sole reason of they bought the developer so that they could have exclusivities of big franchises, and that's ultimately what we're seeing here. It seems, you know, it's no surprise that this would have gone exclusive. It's a shame.
Yeah, just say it how it is. If you'd just said, well, you know what, as you can probably tell, PlayStation Studios have a brilliant proposition. We've struggled to establish that kind of rich, top tier content, and we needed to make a change, and we've done it here. Exactly. You know, I'd probably have a bit more respect. Whereas, like you say, this kind of nebulous sophistry in these words there about the full complete package. I'm not sure what that means. Yeah,
it's a bit weird. So I feel like this is like not something I find particularly surprising. I thought this was how this would go. Disappointing, no doubt, but just one of those. I think it was expected. So yeah, just got to live with it.
Indeed, but good to see, as Todd said, they're obviously going to take the time, put everything into it. They want it to be another big hit like Skyrim was. And as we know, is the trend these days, you know, they like to kind of really milk their intellectual property over many years, don't they? Remaster them, re-release them.
Absolutely.
So, I love a bit of Skyrim.
Right, let's get everything else out of the way and complete the news. So I'll get us started. New PlayStation Remote Play offers an update for Android 12 users to give PS5 controller support.
Brilliant. Xbox is working with TV manufacturers to bring cloud gaming to your screen. Very interesting.
I've put this one in for you, Tabs. Fortnite welcomes Boba Fett for the holidays. I know you like a bit of Boba Fett.
Love Boba Fett, despise Fortnite.
Excellent.
And finally, more Red Dead Redemption games are planned. Take-Two CEO confirms. Let's just hope they don't give it to Grove Street Games to produce.
Oh dear. Right, that is the news this week. We hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, drop us a like. And if you're new here, give us a subscribe. We'd love to have you join the channel. As always, if you'd like more from us, get down in the comments. We'll try and get back to you where we can. And I think that is all we've got time for this week. Another one for the archive.
Stamped and completed.